Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
Well, welcome everyone to a very special episode of Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we do talk all things Panther City Lacrosse. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello, hello.
And I say this is a special episode because, Andy, we have our very first guest ever on today's episode. Without further ado, we'll just get right into it. She is the Director of Digital and Social Media for the Dallas Wings and your Panther City Lacrosse Club. And you have seen her on interview videos on social media with different players and coaches of Panther City. We, of course, want to welcome to the show Casey Buscher. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited.
Of course. As people have been following Panther City, they also see you kind of in the limelight, getting in with the players and with the team. So we're very grateful to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's been fun being a part of Panther City this year.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and get right into it. First, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? To our knowledge, are you a Texas native or a transplant? What's your hometown, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I grew up in Dallas and I went to Texas Tech for undergrad. So I lived in Texas, up until I was 21, and I went to Syracuse in New York for grad school, and I was pursuing my master's in broadcast journalism. So I spent 1 year in upstate New York, where lacrosse was very big. And so growing up in Texas, I actually didn't even really hear about lacrosse at all. Like, no one really played lacrosse. Football was really the prime sport. So I went to Syracuse, and they have a great lacrosse program there as well. And then I did a few months in New England, and I worked for the Patriots, or I worked for a station who covered the Patriots full time. And then after that, I went back to West Texas, and I spent a year there as a reporter in sports. And then after that, I went to California for 2 years, and I served as a sports anchor out there. And then I missed Texas so much, I had to get back here somehow. So I got this position and then moved back to Texas in November. And so I work for Panther City and also for the Dallas Wings now.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, we are happy to have you back. Just backtracking a little bit, what kind of made you pursue the field of communications and sports communications in particular? And I imagine you, growing up in the Metroplex, you developed a love of sports pretty early on.
Yeah, I grew up playing sports, so I was huge into basketball growing up, and I was a diehard Mavericks fan, Cowboys fan growing up. My family loves sports, so it was kind of just like in my blood to love sports. So basically growing up, I was either playing sports, watching sports. I worked for the Mavericks as a ball kid in high school, so I was very much immersed into sports my whole life. So I knew I wanted to do something in sports. I didn't know what, but I wanted to play college basketball. I got some D2, D3 offers, and I just really wanted to go to a big school where I knew I could pursue, sports comm after undergrad, just with a Power 5 school to, go to. So Texas Tech was the only Texas school I applied to. I went there and just fell in love with working in sports. And I did a lot of my background in college was in PR, but I really I wanted to be more in the action of telling the stories and being around the athletes more so in telling their stories. So really got into broadcasting and fell in love with it. And I also really enjoy social and digital media. So that's kind of been the next best thing for me outside of being an athlete. So yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Awesome. We're just out of curiosity, were there any attempts to walk on the basketball team at Tech?
Yeah, so we were the worst. The women's team was the worst in the Big 12 when I was first there. So I thought about it because they had open tryouts, but I was working as a student manager for the team. And honestly, I was probably 3 months into school. I was not working out. I was not in shape. So in no way was I about to make the roster, but I definitely thought about it. I probably should have prepared more, but then, you never know. I might not have had enough experience to really get into sports after, just because I'd be playing all the time. So, everything happens for a reason, but definitely kind of wish I would have walked on or at least tried to.
Yeah, that's all right. But things seem to have worked out nicely for you so far.
Yeah,
sure.
Very true.
Well, and it's funny that you bring up about lacrosse up north, because I was actually just looking at some different discussions today about, people wanting to grow the sport more, and obviously Texas. And like you said, football is pretty much religion down here, and it's hard to get people interested into a sport that a lot of people haven't even heard of. But I think they're really starting to hit a good stride now, and that's really not only encouraging for us as fans, but encouraging for the team as well.
Yeah, I think it is really difficult. I mean, obviously, wasn't here for the first year, but from talks, I hear that like Panther City is becoming more known just in year two. I think Texas Forever Night was the most exciting that I've seen. The arena and people knowing about Panther City. It's really hard to grow in one of the best sports cities in the world, right? Like it's so difficult when you have every single professional sports team in DFW, and they're all very well liked. The Cowboys have an amazing fan base, the Mavs, the Stars. So it's difficult to grow. I think it really is going to. I think the future of lacrosse, at least in the South, is going to start with youth. And,
Hmm.
I didn't even know it was a sport, honestly, until I was in college. So I think, getting kids to come out to the clinics of Panther City, that's going to help introduce them to the sport, and just starting them from a young age and showing them what lacrosse is. I think it would really encourage, that the publicity of the sport just to grow for years if we start with youth. But it's difficult. I think it's just the thing we have to remember, though. It is only the second year, so
Hmm.
it's just going to take a little bit of time. And also just word of mouth and people telling people about Panther City and how fun the games are and how fun the guys are. I think that's going to be the biggest tie for this team, is just the personalities on this team are so much fun. The guys are great. And I think something that's so exciting also just about this sport and what's so inspiring to me when I look at these guys is a lot of them, probably mostly all of them, all have jobs outside of playing
Right.
lacrosse. Like they are grinding Monday through Friday, in their office jobs or whatever job that they are doing. Some are engineers, some, firefighters, whatever it is. And then they come out and they play lacrosse on the weekends and fly from Canada, most
Hmm.
of these guys, to come and play, So there's a big tie with the normal human, right? Like they see, if people can understand like the backgrounds of these guys, like they just want to play lacrosse and have fun and, and get out there while they're also grinding in their 9 to 5s throughout the week. So there's a lot of exciting things about these guys. It's just getting people to know about them and about the team being here.
Right. Well, and even the community outreach that we've seen throughout the season, I think that's a big and important part as well. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, talking about Panther City, I mean, you in particular, how did you get started with Panther City and how did that connection come along?
So my biggest goal, when I was going to leave like local television like full time, was I wanted to work full time in basketball. So whether that was like being a beat reporter for just primarily like for an NBA or WNBA team or a college team, I just wanted to work in basketball full time. So I applied to the Dallas Wings because obviously it was like where my family is and stuff. So when I applied to the Wings, I found out in the first interview that the owner also owns Panther City Lacrosse. And so they're different off seasons. So it works out really nicely because a lot of W teams that are only working for a WNBA team are, just in the off season, it's just still WNBA off season. So it's really fun for us. Like we get to work with the lacrosse team when the W's in the off season. So that's how I got started with Panther City. I never really saw myself like ever working for a lacrosse team just because it's not really my bread and butter for sure. Like, I didn't grow up playing lacrosse. I'm not an expert by any means. Like I'm still learning so much about the sport every day, but I'm so happy that this opportunity has come because I mean, just being around this team is so much fun.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. And yeah, kind of speaking about that. So I played 1 year of field lacrosse my freshman year, and I just got busy with classes and other stuff in high school, so kind of fell out of it. And so box lacrosse, I had never heard of it until the team came around here, and so it's been kind of fun rediscovering it. And we've mentioned basketball a few times in this. So many of the things that you see the players do on the court in terms of setting picks or doing like screen and roll action, that sort of thing. It's very, even with the shot clock being there,
Yeah,
there's so many kind of fun parallels.
it's wild. It's such a mix of like hockey and basketball and soccer almost. Like it's just wild. Like the sport, honestly, and like the fact they can fight. Like it's just and how much they're running. It's really crazy.
Yeah,
how much they are running. Like it is a different type of shape for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I mentioned that to Nick last game. I think it was because Josh Medeiros kept getting knocked down.
Oh yeah.
Like he kept having to run back to the bench. I'm like, there's so much like full on sprinting that these players have to do just to make a substitution.
Yeah, that guy is wild. The fact that he just still doesn't have a tooth,
Yeah,
Oh
like
yeah.
he's just all over the place all the time. He can do everything. He's incredible.
And coming off a really good game too. I mean, he was
Oh
kind
my
of the
God.
key part of that last game, so it was fun to watch
Yeah.
him.
I mean, back to back, he had 5 combined goals in the last 2 games. It's just amazing to have a transition player who is able to play, that hard and score goals too. So yeah, he's incredible. He's definitely a favorite, I feel like, of the fans and of the team too.
Oh yeah.
yep. I got outbid on his jersey.
Ah,
Um,
yeah, man, those went up. Those jerseys went
yeah,
up.
those skyrocketed near the end.
That was
Well,
awesome.
it's kind of speaking more about I guess the on the job stuff that you do. How do you come up with content for social media and other platforms? And kind of second part to that, what do you do to prep for an interview or feature?
Yeah, I think first thing with content is the cool thing is with the team is we just get so much access. Like when we go on away trips and stuff, like we are right with the team all the time. We're friends with the guys, so you just get to know them on such a personal level. So when it comes to, content ideas, like we know who is like the outgoing guys and the fun guys, the serious guys. But when it comes to content, like Mini Mike with Medi is something that we've done this year. We just know that Medi's just so much fun and all the guys love him. So like it's so much fun to just let him go around with the mini mic and just ask the guys questions. We have just an amazing team too. There's 5 people on our content team. We have a video person, a photo person they can both do both, but it's usually what they do. A full-time graphic designer, a creative director, me, and a social media manager. So the 6 of us just kind of brainstorm content ideas all the time. We mic up players a lot at practice. That kind of gives us a lot of good content. When it comes to milestones, we've had a lot of milestones this year. Callum Crawford just last game, 450th
Hmm.
goal. Donville has given us so much content, winning Rookie
Yeah,
5 times. He just got his 50th assist. So it's also easy to come up with content when your guys are good and they're winning games. And this is obviously the most successful year that they've had. So just compared to last year, the amount of success that they've had this season, they're just excited to be winning and, the stride that they're about to have. And also, to acquire Callum Crawford and to just form this roster that we've built. And now with Donville also on the team, it's so much fun. So I feel like the energy in general around this team is a lot of fun. And they're excited to make content. Like they never say no to anything. They're always really open to ideas and stuff. And also Donville works in our office, so he gives us a lot of content ideas and he thinks of things. He's brilliant. He went to Cornell for undergrad and Maryland for grad school. He's so smart. So Donville helps us out a bunch. And also Patrick Foley works in our office too. So we're
okay.
around them even more because of that. So yeah, content wise, that, and then also when it comes to interviews and stuff, I definitely wanted to continue storytelling and stuff when I got into this role. So, the staff has been really, encouraging of that. So, really, I just kind of think about, some of the backstories of some of these guys, like Ryan McLean, we just talked with him because he tore his ACL. He just
Hmm.
played his first game last week or 2 weeks ago. And so like that's a story right there. Donville obviously has an incredible story. And a lot of the guys live in not a lot of the guys, 6 of the guys live in Market. So they live in Fort Worth. So they're
Nice.
easiest to get access to when it comes to interviews and stuff during the week because most of the team doesn't even come in until the day before the game. So they have practice that night, walk through in the morning, game that night on Saturday. So it's just like boom, boom, boom. It's really hard to get one-on-ones with them whenever they're coming in so late. But
Gotcha.
it's really just a lot of brainstorming and we all are around them so much. So anytime, a storyline comes up, we all kind of discuss it and yeah, it's close knit for sure.
So,
So
so long story short, Donville, rookie of the year contender and
oh,
brilliant mind off the field.
oh my gosh, he's amazing. And the best part, he's just like the nicest guy ever. He's amazing. Yeah.
Well,
Rookie
Yeah,
of the year.
he's
If
got
he's
that
not rookie of
blog
the year,
too.
then I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you were talking about just how like the team itself has changed like cultures, and now they're like starting to win more and enjoying that. And it's been fun for us as again as fans because we were watching them all last season kind of during that growth period, and now they're like continuing to grow, but just like in a different way.
Hmm.
And so just seeing that change is it's really cool for us, and I'm sure it's cool for them as well.
Yeah, it is really cool to see how it's all raveling out right now.
Yeah, well, speaking of the players, and obviously, I mean, who's been, I guess, your favorite person to interview and like your favorite people to interact with so far this season?
Oh, that's good. I hate to say John Donville, but he's such a good interview because he's a broadcast major. So like he's able
Uh,
to just articulate so well. Phil Caputo is probably one of the funniest people ever. Like he is always joking around. I think in the interview I did with him, we had to restart like a few times because we were just laughing the whole time. He's great. Who else is great? Well, Malcolm's always super nice and
mhm.
he's so unbelievably talented. Callum Crawford is like the most confident guy ever. Like when I sat down with him, I found myself being nervous. I'm like, wow, you are so put together and like confident. But he's just amazing and like just such a good family guy and a great dad. He was probably my favorite interview, and obviously just with how successful he is, like on the field and off. He's wonderful too. They're honestly all so great to be around. Grinnin is hilarious.
Yeah, I was just
He's
about to
got to be
say.
the
Yeah, I was
funniest
about
guy.
yeah, like Grinin's my favorite player so far. I mean, his personality just like exudes himself. So
I used to get Medi and Grinnin mixed up a lot when I first got here. I think it's just like their body shape when they're on the floor.
Mhm.
But yeah, Grinnin is so funny. Like every time we do shoots with him, he's always making everyone laugh. Like he's the best.
He's perfect for social media, right? All
Oh
all
my
the
God.
videos,
He's our number one.
right?
When
Well,
we need content, we go to Grinnin.
well, and speaking on that, so not so much Grinning, but there was one interview you had, and you guys went to the old stockyards, and
Yeah.
obviously being around this area, I'm sure you've been there before, but I mean, how cool was that for the players as well? And then I think you guys even did the shoot for the
Yep.
Texas Forever Night, right?
Yeah, so cool. And it's really funny because some of these players like they've never even been to Texas before. So some of them are living here and some of them are just coming here all the time for home games and stuff. The Texas Forever shoot was awesome. It was so much fun. They loved the jerseys
Hmm.
and it was so great. And it's just so funny because like most of them are all Canadian. So it's like they don't even understand Texas and how just they just think so many things about Texas is super comical,
Hmm.
like the food and the drinking and the footwork, like the cows going down the street, like just everything that involves Fort Worth, I think is just like hilarious to them. So yeah, it's funny. I love it. This old stockyards are great too. So it's nice to like be in Fort Worth. I feel like it's a good place to play.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Fort Worth or Dallas would have been good too. So yeah, it's
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that about like people coming in from out of the country. So, me and Andy used to be a part of a group that went to like arcades around the area, and they actually had a year where they brought in people from Japan to play games and play in tournaments and stuff. And
wow.
I just remember that interaction. Like the biggest thing they would talk about is like Texas really likes their flag. Like we go anywhere else and we don't understand why they don't like their flags as much, but Texas really likes their flag, and I'm like, yep, that's the most
Yeah,
Texas thing you can talk about.
I think they noticed that too. And it's funny because like content day, right? Like we will capture stuff for months and months to come just so we have it all, especially
Mhm.
because they're not in market. So we have to plan. So like 4th of July, we had a American flag and we're like, hey guys, take a picture of this. They're like, we're not even American. Like, why are we taking this picture? We're like, we just need it for social media, okay?
Right?
And Foley's like the only American who's like carrying the flag. It's so funny. So yeah.
That's awesome.
But we got the Canada flag too, so we got pictures of that. So all
Okay,
good.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Another two-parter for me. We know that you work with the Dallas Wings pretty closely too. Are there any differences in interviewing Wings players and other sports athletes versus that of Panther Cities? And have you ever gotten starstruck interviewing anyone?
I think the biggest difference is, like I said, that the guys are just so down to earth, laid back because, they're not full-time athletes. So it's like I think there's like a extra sense of humbleness because, they're just normal people coming into games on the weekends and they just happen to be professional lacrosse players as well. So they're just such real people, I think. So just in terms of like interviews and getting to know them and hanging out with them and stuff, it's just so normal. I think
Right.
that's the best way to say it. But when it's full-time professional athletes like NBA players, NFL, WNBA players, it's a different sense of you trying to earn their respect, I guess is the best way to say that. So when it comes, but of course we try to always be very professional with the Panther City guys as well, but it's just a little bit more guard down, I think, when it comes to them, just because they're more comfortable because they have just very normal lives outside of playing lacrosse. So, but when it comes to the WNBA players, I think so it's a little bit of that. And it's just like a little bit different of a stage. So I think it's just a little bit different with that. But I haven't had any sit down interviews with any of the women yet. So we'll have our content day in a month. So I'm excited to get to know them. I mean, some of them are, massive stars and are
Right.
growing so much in their individual brands and stuff. So, and I hope the lacrosse players can get that stage too one day as well. But anyways, so yeah, I'm excited for that. And I think starstruck, I was in a media scrum with Tom Brady.
Oh, wow.
That's probably the most I've ever been starstruck. It
Mhm.
was pretty wild. So, but I had to keep my
Nice.
cool.
Mhm.
Right. Was that during like one of the Super Bowl weekends or?
No, it was his last. It was preseason of the Patriots and his last season with the Pats.
Oh,
So yeah, it was his first media like scrum of the new of his last year with the Pats. So it was crazy. Thought I was gonna get suffocated, but I didn't.
Oh yeah, I can imagine being in a
Yeah,
media scrum with a name as big as that. You gotta kind of fight for your place
100%.
and
It was
whatnot.
wild. I felt like I was fighting for my life, but we made it out alive. So
that's awesome. Well, and now he's officially retired, so you can kind of breathe a little bit more.
right, exactly.
But oh well, cool. I mean, I guess for me, like again, you're working with Panther City now. You're working with the Dallas Wings. What's your favorite part of doing everything so far since you've been back?
I think just working on the team side of things, just because I've always been like in the media. So I didn't get the access that I do get now working on the team side. So just the access I get with the guys, like being in Panther City this season, and the trust that I get to build being on the team side. Like, there's a very much understood thing, like I'm making you look good no matter what, which I always did that in the media as well, but sometimes I think athletes get nervous that that's not going to be the case.
Right.
So there's a very much understood thing when you're on the team side. Of course, everything you do is to make them look good. So I think that just brings like a great, I don't know, like respect and relationship. So I really enjoyed that. I'm really excited to be like that with the Wings too, and just help them continue to grow. I find it a really exciting challenge to be, working in the WNBA and in lacrosse and trying to grow both sports, especially in a city that's so dominated by football and basketball, men's basketball. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to just continue to help. And obviously, as a woman in sports, I'm very excited to help grow the WNBA and especially the Dallas Wings because they still need a platform too here. They're not as known as a lot of other W teams across the country. So I want to grow the brand a lot. And I also just want to continue to help grow Panther City too. So I think just in general, trying to make an impact with both of the teams is what I've enjoyed the most and having a lot of fun. Like everyone around me is awesome. The guys are awesome. The women are awesome. I'm really excited just for what's to come with both of them.
Well, that's really good. Yeah, especially since, pretty much like you said, when once lacrosse ends, it's like straight into WNBA, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be weird because since the guys won't be in markets, like I don't even know when I'm going to see them again. It's kind of sad.
Right? And
No,
hopefully none of them get traded in the off season.
I know. Liam Burns today, that was sad
Ah,
for
get,
sure.
that was ooh, I don't know. That's something that we were actually going to talk about on this week, so we'll see what our thoughts are on that one, but
Yeah.
well, so speaking of players in Panther City, do you have a favorite Panther City game this season? And you've kind of touched on liking everyone, but do you have a favorite player to watch?
I think my favorite has been Texas Forever. Just the vibe, the fans that were able to come out, and the jerseys, just the whole overall theme of Texas Forever was so much fun. And I think my favorite player to watch is probably just Colin Crawford, just because of the IQ that he plays with. And as someone who didn't play lacrosse, like I feel like he's the epitome of what you should play like. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's so smart, and also the way he acts around the guys, the locker room talks he has with the guys, like he is just so he's such a good leader overall. Like he's just awesome. All the guys respect him so much, and obviously he's a legend in the sport. So he's been my favorite to watch. I think second would probably be Will Malcolm. I think Patrick Foley plays incredible defense. He's been fun to watch on defense too. I was always an offensive player growing up, just in general in sports. Like I just don't like defense, probably because I wasn't good at it. So I am gonna gravitate towards Callum and Will because of that. But yeah, they're just fun to watch. And obviously Nick DeMood has been amazing too as a goalie this year. So he's been awesome to watch too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually have it's kind of a running joke on my Instagram page for the lacrosse page, or for the podcast page, is a day mood appreciation post. So anytime like there's a picture posted of him or something, I'm like,
Yes,
yeah.
he is a rock star. I don't know how goalies do it.
Well, yeah, and he's been doing it for a couple of years now. He was with San Diego before us, and
Yeah,
so I think again it kind of speaks to he's kind of like the everyman's man, and so he can like connect with everybody on a really, like you said earlier, where they can work with other people very easily.
definitely. He's definitely that guy. Everyone loves him.
Awesome. Well, I mean, talking about just the season as a whole, and we're kind of down to like our last few games. I mean, overall, what's the one thing you're kind of looking forward to as the season goes on and towards the finish here?
I think I'm really just looking forward to playoffs and to seeing what they can do. It's there's just so there's some games where you're like, okay, everything's clicking, but there's some games where it's like everyone's lacking. I think in San Diego, it kind of felt like that. Like it was everyone was behind. So it seems like usually everyone's on the same page or they're not. I don't know how to explain that really,
Hmm.
but that's kind of what it seems like. Even last game, TK is just not satisfied at all. And I think that's good. I think TK is obviously one of the best. He's such an incredible coach. So just to not get too excited on, having back-to-back wins and then finishing strong at home is going to be really important. But just a playoff push, and obviously making playoffs for the first time will be so cool for the franchise and for the guys. And I mean, also, I'm just so happy for Donville too, just because we've become such good friends that he's in our office. If he goes and he wins Rookie of the Year, makes playoffs, like that's so cool as a rookie. And also for Callum, like to come to Panther City and be a part of this. And I think it's his 11th team
Yeah.
to make the playoffs with us. Like that would be so awesome. I mean, we really do have all the pieces to make it work. So I think it's just seeing how it all plays out. But I'm most excited for the playoffs and to see what they can do in the postseason.
Well, and it's funny you say that about like the team kind of either they're all clicking or they're not, because we've even discussed it before in our shows. Just there's some games where like things just are awesome. Like we're playing really good, passes are well, goals are going in. And then there's other games. I mean, we were there for one a couple weeks ago where like it just seems a little discombobulated, and
Yeah.
like there was a pass that went into one of the benches at some point, and it's just like everybody wasn't on the same page. But
Mhm.
eventually, there's some games that they figured it out and they get back together, and then other games just not so much. We kind of joke that Coach DK, I mean, he'll go into halftime and give them a good halftime speech most of the time, and it seems like they come out kind of a different team sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that they normally play so much better in the second half. I mean, San Diego, that's when they came back.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're I think definitely a good second half team. TK is also extremely motivating, so I'm sure whatever he says at halftime is pretty intense and gets them going. So I think something really cool too is just the relationship that TK seems to have with a lot of these players, because they just trust him so much because of how successful he was as a player. they all want to be pushed by him so much more. Like he talks a lot about Will Malcolm and how Will continuously tells TK like, push me, I want to be better, I want to be better. So that's really cool. I think if anyone's going to like push the team the most, it's going to be TK. He's just incredible, and they all respect him so much. So they can do it. They can do big things.
I guess talking about the coach, I mean, obviously he won Coach of the Year last year, and so he's coming off of that, and really wants to set a high standard for his team. I guess for you personally, I mean, what's one thing you've kind of learned from, him or just the team in general, like on a personal level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would need to think more about this, but TK has been probably one of my most favorite things about working for Panther City. The he is just he's so humble. Like you would have no clue what his background is, how successful he was as a player, how he has been as a coach. He started so many youth leagues, and I think like a select lacrosse league in Canada. I think it's the biggest one in Canada, something crazy. So he's just remarkable. You would never know those things. Like he always asks you about how you're doing, your family. He's just amazing. He's so great. So I think just in general, I can just every time I talk to TK is like his work ethic. Like he really truly is never pleased with like the success. Like he always wants more. He's just so motivating in every way. So that I really appreciate about TK. And I think also just in general, just the team being around them and how much fun they are, because they truly want to play lacrosse and they want to have fun and they want to do this, for joy. Like they're not doing this to make thousands and thousands of dollars. Like they're doing this because they love it and they're really good at it and they're professionals and they're choosing to play lacrosse, So I think that's something I've never really been a part of or like ever really seen before, because most professional athletes, they're only having to play their sport. So that's really cool just to see the passion. Like they want to be there and they want to be with each other. And I think just again, it's just to touch on this real quick, like the trades, like it's really hard because I think also the lacrosse community, like as an outsider, like I've noticed it's so tight knit. So when like everyone knows everyone, right? Like Donville might be new, but he's been knowing all these guys for so long because they all kind of grow up together. A lot of them play on select teams together in Canada and stuff. So anyways, I think, the teams become so close knit, even though they're not all in market together. So when trades happen, it's really sad. So anyways, they're just all, there for the fun of it, for the joy of it. And just because they love the sport so much, which is really cool.
Well, and like you say, a lot of players are from Canada, so it's not only that, but just like probably knowing each other from their background even,
Yeah.
and growing up together.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, hearing that also about the team, just like, like you said, they're really passionate about it, and you don't really sometimes you see that in some players, but like you said, sometimes it's just, it's like their job, and these guys are really like striving to be better because they're passionate about it. So that's really awesome to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like how many NBA players have you heard that like they're not even doing it for fun anymore? Like they're doing it because it's literally their job. Like, they probably don't even feel like going to practice or to games or whatever. And I mean, a lot of them are sitting out all the time. So
Right.
it's like these guys want to be there, they want to play. And it's really cool just to see the passion that they play with. And they're probably freaking exhausted. They're working all week and then going to play in a freaking lacrosse game. It's wild. So
Oh yeah.
that's really cool about them.
Well, and speaking of which, I mean, there are some players. I mean, we've that's one thing that we've learned this season for sure, as far as their second jobs. But there's a lot of players that find like another team to play for in the off season. So that's even crazier to think that they can do it all year.
Right, exactly. I think Donville also plays in the PLL, so some of them definitely play in both leagues. So yeah, it's wild.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, that covers most of the questions I have. Andy, did you have any other follow-up questions that you wanted to cover?
Not that I can think of. Just yeah, it is interesting hearing about how you can tell there's a definite genuine love for the game. I remember, I think it was the first Colorado game this season. When we saw Burton's injury, I could have sworn he tore his ACL or something bad happened to his knee. But yeah, but then I think it was within a month he was back out there with like a sleeve or a brace on his leg, just and taking face offs, doing what he usually does.
He's also one of my favorites. He's so nice. His wife's amazing. He's just an overall 10 out of 10 guy. He's great. But yeah, I remember that. That was scary. That was scary, but he bounced back. So thank God.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. I mean, injuries. I mean, like you said, as far as a story goes, I mean, it's really cool to kind of see them bounce back from that.
Definitely. Definitely. It's not easy. So
Right. Well, I mean, normally this at this point we do kind of talk about kind of our expectations going forward for like the next game or so. I guess I'll end with a general expectation question. Obviously, we're aiming for the playoffs this year, and we should hopefully get that three spot at least.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this weekend plays out as far as San Diego having back-to-back games, and then hopefully we can get kind of a leg up and aim for that two spot. But I mean, overall, what's your expectations and the goals for Panther City as the team, and then just where do you think we're going to end up at the end of the year?
I mean, I genuinely feel like if they can all get on the same page, when if we can see them play how they did against Saskatchewan or last game, like they genuinely can do it. Like I think they can go all the way. Like I have no doubt. Like the vibes I feel when I'm around them, when they're all clicking and on the same page, the vibes I get from TK, like they genuinely feel like they can win a championship. So I'm all on board with that. I think if they, stay healthy and they click on all cylinders when it comes to offense, their defense continues to be strong and Demood is in the goal. I really think that they can make a stride, and I think they can win a championship. I really do.
Well, yeah, that's definitely I think something in the cards, if not this year, going forward, just
Mhm.
because of the team in general. I mean, they're definitely like you said, when they click together, that they're really a good team and they're a good offense, and it's hard to stop them. It's just making sure everybody is kind of on the same page, and that's something that I know that the coach and the players themselves are going to strive for as the year goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, yes, playoffs for sure. Championship, I mean, I want a championship, but I think for me, every little win helps. And I've always the main reason I got interested into Panther City was because I'm a big underdog story kind of guy,
Yeah.
and seeing a league come into Fort Worth and start like this and start from scratch pretty much, it's fun to root for because you see that not only them, take steps in the right direction, but aiming for that championship. And then
Yeah.
of course Andy, joined me along the way, so that was really cool to be able to talk back and forth with somebody about it as well.
That's
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely expecting playoffs, and I'd like to see at least getting past the first round. I think would
yeah.
give the guys a good taste of victory, and we've got a great mix of vets like Crawford and Burton and Caputo, as well as some great talent with Dodds, Donville, Gaucher, so many guys. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
Well, and
He
it's
definitely will.
and it's funny you talk about Crawford too. Sorry to go back on that real quick, but that veteran leadership, that veteran experience in a team which is you know the majority of them are young and new and just kind of like hitting the ground running still, is really good for the team, and I think it reflects in how they play sometimes too.
Yeah, I think I mean, Dodds, Goche, and Donville, they
Hmm.
are so, Callum makes him better being around him. And just, I think the craziest thing for me when I look at Panther City is usually when you're looking at another team, right? Like there's a couple guys, like Sask has like three guys who can really like score really well. But like Panther City, you literally have no clue who's gonna have four goals, right? Like who's gonna have four goals or three goals a game. Like there's so many guys who could score. That's like five guys right there who are all extreme. I mean, Dodge used to kind of be like the number 3 guy, but it's like now he's more not scoring as much, but of course he's incredibly talented too. So there's so many weapons on Panther City who can score, and I think someone like Crawford just makes them all so much better. I mean, it's crazy. Like Goat and Donville Goat's really young. I think Goat's 20. Donville's 24, 25. I mean, they're really young. So I feel like to be around someone like Crawford and Phil is great, and it makes him better for sure.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. You don't know where all the goals are going to come from, because we've seen, obviously, Tony Malcolm and Medeiros have been playing great from that transition spot. Burton scored that goal last game, and then Damude's always good for, it seems like, an empty netter each season so far. So yeah,
it's awesome. I think that's the most fun part. Like last game, I think Donville and Will both had 1 goal each and 4 assists each. And then you have Medi having 2 goals. And, and Goat had 2 goals. I think Caputo had 2 goals. So, yeah, it's just fun. You really never know who's going to be, the top scorer in a night, because there's so many guys who are able to. So that's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, I had one more question that popped in my head. We hear their nicknames all the time when they're introduced. Do you know any of the origins of some of their nicknames?
Okay, so which ones?
Like the kid. I mean,
the kid. I think I was wondering, because I'm like, where did those come from and who made them up? But I would assume the kid because he's 20, I was really confused when I got here, because I'm like, why do they call him the Goat? Like, he looks so young. Like, why is he the Goat? I'm like, oh, his name's Goat. I mean, he could be the Goat eventually, but yeah. So I think I don't really know what all, it's so loud I can't even hear it all the time. But I heard the kid last game. I'm like, that's weird. But I think that's why, just because he's so young.
And Donville for Texas Donnie. I didn't like. Where did that come from?
I don't know. Maybe because he lives here now and he didn't even know Texas before. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, does Donville even like Texas? I feel like he's just such an East Coaster, so it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to me, just like that 6 of them lived in Fort Worth. I'm like, what did they think of Texas? If they were to tell me straight up how they thought, and of course they're gonna be like, yeah, I love Texas, but I'm like, do you actually love Texas? Because it's so different than Canada and the East Coast. Like, East Coast people are not like West Coast people or Southern people.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah. So I don't know really what all those nicknames mean, but something they all do, they put a Y on the end of everyone's name. So Dodsy, Johnny, Capoots, they call him. Everyone has a Y.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, again, it just kind of goes to show you just how kind of a close-knit team they are. But yeah. Well, Casey, I mean, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. We thank you for, spending some time with us, giving us some insight on not only Panther City, but the Dallas Wings, of course. Any final thoughts or shout-outs?
Well, just thank you guys for doing this podcast. I feel like this podcast and people that, follow us really well is the way that we're going to grow as an organization. And so I really appreciate you guys, having this podcast and, staying up to date with Panther City. Like, it means so much to all of us that you guys, do this podcast. So I'm excited just to see how Panther City grows and what's to come with the rest of the season. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's at Casey Buscher, Twitter at Casey Buscher TV, and of course, follow Panther City Lax.
There you go. Well, thank you again. Of course, this is the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse podcast. We thank Casey for coming on the show tonight. Once again, I'm Nicholas.
Once again, I'm Andy.
And of course, Casey. Thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all next time.
Cheers, y'all.